on a mission and you're just like so focused on the task and not making any mistakes that you don't have time to be lonely or like realize that you're tired, or it's just like making sure you're doing everything right, because if you make mistakes then it's bad. Right, folks, we're at Kendall Mountain Festival. I've got Alex and I've got Billy with me. We've been in the Yosemite session this morning, and I was presenting. That's a bit of a new role for me, actually. I was presenting and I was holding the session together and pulling all of some of the best climbers that we have to offer, talking about Yosemite. So, how was the session? How is Kendall Mountain Festival for you guys? It's your first time. It's your second time.
Yeah.
Kick us off.
Yeah, it was cool. I think it was sort of similarly novel for us. I don't think we've been like on the stage being like athletes in the spotlight too much before. So I thought it was really cool. I liked with the Yosemite session that it sort of brought together multiple generations of climbers. I really enjoyed hearing Jamie talk about like the history of Yosemite and it bringing us through to the Monday, and then us chatting about the shenanigans we've been doing. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, being on a stage with legends was pretty cool. It's like nice to sort of share experiences with people, and like it's cool to have that even across like multiple generations, to have that like shared experience of being up there on El Cap and being scared and all that good stuff.
Okay, so you've just been out to Yosemite. You went and climbed the nose. You were the first Brits and British team to free climb the nose, which I feel like is pretty significant because it's one of the most historic routes in the world. How was that? How was the experience for you guys?
Yeah, kind of ridiculous. Pretty far cry from what we have done before with comps and stuff. We sort of set it as a ridiculous goal, and gave ourselves a like short time frame to do it, and so to actually get it done was pretty absurd. It's one of the best bits of rock climbing I've ever done, aside from the fact that it's probably the most fantastic line in the world. Like when you go to El Cap, you can see where the climb goes.
You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. That is the route.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the free climbing is really good on both ends as well. It's like even the easy stuff is like good movement, but the hard climbing is like some of the best, most complex technical climb I've ever done in the world. Like in any situation, bouldering, sport, trad, like, and the fact that that's 3,000 foot up on the best line in the world is like, it's as good as it gets, and that's what climbing's all about.
Definitely opened my eyes to sort of how grand an experience you can have through climbing, which is, yeah, as I said, very different to what we've done before. Like being competitors, there's just not the sort of scale that you have on a big wall, and just I don't know how to describe it. Well, it's just like more. This the entire experience is more. It's more. It's not a sort of. I don't know.
I could never describe to you the completeness of it. I was like thinking about this morning as we were like getting into the session. People were like asking how it was, like, oh, how was the trip? And it's like, I couldn't describe it to you. Just being like sat on a ledge, and the wind dropping down. You're like 3,000 feet above with like little, like cars driving through the valley like ants, and like people walking around. And you like see a bear. It's like, and then in the middle of the day, the like wind drops down, and it becomes like super still and quiet, and then this like entire ecosystem of little tiny bugs comes out that like feed on all the plants on the rock, and it's like all of those little things you could never possibly capture like when you're describing it to somebody. So it's like one of the few otherworldly experiences I've ever had in my life, to be up there.
These are the things you notice when you're bored beeling your partner, because they're taking so long, and you just see these like the wildlife in front of you.
yeah, you're just like totally connected with the space in a way that I think is like difficult to achieve when you're bouldering. It's like a fully immersive experience.
Yeah, it's from like the moment you wake up until you go to bed. Like everything is the experience. Whereas like competition climbing or bouldering or sport climbing, it's like the experience is the bit of climbing that you do, and then that's kind of the end of it. Whereas you have the big wall, it's just everything that happens is part of part of the day.
You pay for it though. It's a lot of work. Like,
oh yeah.
You just wake up in the morning and do manual labor 12 hours a day. So, you get to do some climbing as well, but that's not the meat.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool because there's a lot of people at the festival who are much more on that side of the sport than we have been in the past, like being more indoor based. So it's connected us to a very different part of the sport, and it's given us connections to all the people on that panel. That come from totally different walks of life, but we've got this thing that's connecting us together, and yeah, that's been really special.
Yeah, and you've done a lot of soloing up there, right? Like the rope soloing freerider seems so comically ridiculous, having done a third of that work while we were climbing up there. It's like that's like fully manual. Yeah.
Yeah, the rope soloing is not. I mean, it's hard work, but it's kind of all right. It's when you get into the speed soloing of mixing, like some aid climbing with free climbing with free soloing and mixing that all together, then it can get quite challenging, I think. Like when you
challenging from a like technical perspective, or challenging from like a risk and danger perspective.
Both. You need to like some like a bit more techniques and more confidence in your climbing, and like some more risk management. Like because I climbed or soloed Half Dome and El Cap in a single day, and you have to be like able to move efficiently, and you just have the right tools for the job to be able to do it. So but I mean, when it's like when you were saying, when you're up on the climb, when you're up on the nose, it's like you're in that experience, and that's all you're doing, and I feel like that's what those big walls bring in a way. It's like you're not focused on anything else whilst you're doing those things.
I found the level of complexity very engaging, because there's always something to like
think about.
Can I flip this carabiner around the other way? Like, can I move this out over here? It's like, and it's 1,000 of those little things that make it. When you get on a big wall for the first time and you don't know what you're doing,
way too many, because none of it's automatic, so it's way too many things to think about.
Get yourself into problems that you would never get into, like if you knew what you were doing. It's like even 3 weeks in, the level of efficiency between us, and like, the rope's not tangled up and like in a crack somewhere because we know what we're doing.
Because you manage, exactly. Yeah.
We clip the whole bag on this side rather than this side, so we don't have to like climb behind the 80-kilo haul bag to like get to the other side. As I would still we kept forgetting to clip the haul line on.
Oh yeah.
Like, because when we were trading between us, it's like, when we like did the transitions. So we had loads of situations where one of us would get to the top of the pitch.
So many times you get there, we've not got the pro traction to actually haul anything up.
But that's where the like experience really like.
But then once you've done it, you're going to say it happened more than once. I was going to say once you've done it once, then you don't.
No, we did that like 4 or 5 times.
We kept doing it every single week. About 1 in every 5 pitches we get all
The psychology of being up there by yourself is kind of crazy to me, because like the whole time we were there, if one of you is struggling a little bit, you've got somebody to bounce off. Like, if you're struggling to figure out a problem, there's somebody there. Keep one another's morales up. But like, when you're up there by yourself, do you have those moments where you're just like feels like a bit low and you're struggling, or is it you're just such on a mission?
I think those things, you're just like on a mission, and you're just like so focused on the task and not making any mistakes that you don't have time to be lonely or like realize that you're tired, or it's just like making sure you're doing everything right, because if you make mistakes, then it's bad.
I think a lot of it's so committing to be up there that you kind of don't have any other choice than to like keep moving forward and solve the problem and do everything. Like we had situations where we're getting rained on and it's like wet and damp and like cold, but like can't really back off because you can't wrap off in the rain. And
just gotta keep.
You just gotta keep going. It's okay. I'm just here, and it's like, if it gets worse, we can solve that problem when we get there. But right now, there's nothing else I've done all of the things that I can do. It's like being up there is the best anti-anxiety training I've ever done in my life, because you're kind of always like looking at. There's so many things that could go wrong. Like you could just. I mean, you could die at any time if you make the wrong mistake. But all you can do is trust the systems that you've got, like focus on transitioning between the systems and making sure that you're doing everything as correctly as you can, and then like everything, you just have to leave everything else up to like the universe. And it's like at some point you just sort of accept it, and it's like, okay, like I'm doing everything to the best of my ability, and that's all I can do. That's how I go. Yeah, it's helped me in life quite a lot.
So we imagine that there's somebody climbing indoors or locally on single pitch routes, and they want to go and climb a big wall. They want to go and climb an El Cap. What would be your advice to these people to get into it? Maybe not the. I mean, you can give them the path that you took, but what would be your advice? We want advice here.
My advice from learning, our experience was that it sort of looks like we just showed up in Yosemite and packed a whole bag and climbed the nose. As actually we approached it in a very like systematic, quite speedy, but systematic way where we were biting off little chunks at a time. Like we didn't haul on the route for the first time. We hauled up these ledges because we were going to the top. Like we took one problem at a time and one thing that we didn't know how to do at a time. And then it meant that any problems we encountered weren't multiplied by other problems. So every individual system you can learn really well, but there's so many little problems and sort of challenges to solve on the wall. Where it becomes dangerous is when multiple of those things happen at the same time. It's when you're rapping in the dark and you're cold and you've run out of water and your rope gets stuck. That's when you actually end up in real serious issues. All of those things individually are not that big of a problem. But as soon as you stack those things together, so trying to take it slowly and learn one piece at a time, you'll run into less problems.
Yeah. So you still actually learned one piece at a time, but just very quickly.
Yeah.
That's the process that you took.
Kind of. I mean, we implemented one sort of system at a time, but we kind of learned all the systems to start with, basically from watching YouTube videos.
You can learn anything from YouTube.
Which you can learn anything from YouTube, but
I think that is good. I think that works.
Yeah. Probably my official advice would be to book onto a big walling course.
What? So, but I don't think that's good advice for people in the modern world. Like the information that's available on YouTube is, frankly, substantially higher quality than most training courses that are available, because it's like the best person in the world at teaching is probably teaching on YouTube rather than doing it to 10 people in a room.
Yeah, but we pretty much learn all of the rope management skills beyond what we already knew from like single pitch stuff from YouTube videos, and it is all out there. Like if you just go and faff around with some bits of gear and a few bolts, like you can figure out a good way to manage your anchor on the floor, and then we implemented one system at a time, sort of nice and gradually.
I put a rope up in a tree, and I got my phone out and like jogged a few times, looked for tips and techniques, and like, okay, I can change this, and like did it in a controlled environment best I could, but like just practiced and yeah.
So I would actually say that is like the way that you take it is very common to what people do, like, but you probably just did it in the month before rather than in 6 months leading up to it. I mean, when I went up El Cap for the first time, I did exactly the same, just like jug in a tree, practice jugging, and like rope soloing. Like I read a book, how to rope solo, and then went rope soloing, and it's just like you just learn how to do it, and then you just implement it one bit at a time, don't you?
Climbing is dangerous, but like what am I trying to say?
But it's not if you take the right steps.
Pretty much. Climbing is dangerous, but I think that there's like this culture of like trying to eliminate all the risk before you get started. Like
you can never
courses and certifications and everything, but it's like people have been learning how to do this for a long time by like talking to other people and honestly making some mistakes. And like if you can avoid making mistakes that are really serious, then like making mistakes is how you learn.
As long as you've got a couple layers of safety every time, like you can make that one mistake and it's okay because you've got the backup sorted and then you learn from it.
Yeah, what was your biggest mistake, Alex? I know what this is, but you can tell the people.
This is
a biggie. This is
one of the. So I've climbed like 10,000 routes, and every time I check my knot, and every time I like go climbing. We'd finished climbing, changing corners, and we were sort of rushing on the ledge, getting our camp set up. Billy had just sent, we were going to the top. Like, we'd been in Yosemite for a month, we'd been on the wall for a week,
Yeah, so we had kind of a euphoria moment where we've done the hard climbing, we know we're going to go to the top, and like our guard was down basically. Like we weren't in that sort of stressed bubble we had been for a week.
So I was rushing. I wanted to take some photos on the crux as we went past, and then we could like do the last few pitches to the top and be down by sunset. So we're in a bit of a rush. I left the ledge to get started. I did about 10 or 15 moves, so it's probably 5 or 10 meters above the ledge. I looked down and my knot was not tied. I tied the figure of 8 and then thread that through my harness and got distracted. And I looked down to see that I was on a 5:14 trad pitch without being tied in whatsoever. I just sort of looked down at Billy and said, I'm not tied in. I climbed it plenty of times. It was on an easy section of route, and I kind of had to make the decision of whether I down climbed to the ledge or like keep going for a few more moves to get to a no hands rest. And it was just like that's the only moment in climbing where I just sort of had to take one of the few moments I've ever had where I just took a deep breath. I was like, okay, I gotta not fall off now. This is like, I was very so it was very telling to me that, despite the fact that we went in with no experience and we didn't know what we were doing, but we learned and did it safely and we were checking along the way. It was very telling to me that it was the moment of success and euphoria and complacency that we made, frankly, the most dangerous mistake of the entire trip. And I just think that's pretty telling of climbing accidents in general. It's very rare that they come from inexperience and inexperience. It's very often somebody who's very experienced who just lets their guard down for a second. And I just think that's the perfect telling moment. Even if I feel like an absolute idiot, then hopefully I won't do it again.
No, exactly, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.